From the very first whispers of history, humanity has been captivated by the unknown. Even in the quietest moments, when the world slows and shadows stretch across ancient stones, there is a sense that the past is never truly gone. It lingers, hidden in ruins, scattered artifacts, and forgotten stories. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast desert as the sun dips below the horizon, the wind carrying the faint echoes of civilizations long vanished. Each grain of sand, each crumbling wall, holds a secret, a memory of human hands that once shaped the world in ways both ordinary and extraordinary. The human mind has always sought to understand, to give meaning to what it sees, yet time has a way of burying answers beneath layers of mystery. Some mysteries are subtle, found in the patterns of ancient cities whose streets no longer serve the footsteps of living souls. Others are grand, inscribed in monuments whose scale and precision continue to baffle modern imagination. There is a strange duality in these remnants. They are at once tangible and elusive, inviting us to touch, to measure, to analyze, and yet constantly slipping just beyond complete comprehension. Perhaps this is why we are drawn to them, why even as night falls and the world grows quiet, our curiosity remains awake, threading through the darkness, seeking the hidden connections that link past and present. In this exploration, we will travel across continents and centuries, venturing into spaces where history and mystery converge. We will encounter societies whose names are barely whispered in textbooks, their contributions to art, science, and culture known only through fragments that survive the sweep of time. We will trace the intricate lines of artifacts that seem to defy explanation, and we will pause before towering structures whose purpose and methods challenge our understanding. At every turn, there is a contrast, the known against the unknown, the light of recorded history against the shadows of uncertainty. This balance between clarity and enigma forms the heartbeat of our journey, guiding us through a landscape that is both comforting in its rhythm and unsettling in its endless questions. The air is still, and the stories unfold slowly, like the gentle flow of a river carving its path through stone. Some tales will whisper of ingenuity beyond what we often credit to our ancestors. Others will hint at knowledge lost, innovations that disappeared alongside the civilizations that created them. And in between, there will be gaps, moments of silence in which our imagination must step in, filling the spaces left by incomplete records, imagining the rituals, the ambitions, and the daily lives of those who lived thousands of years ago. These silences are not empty. They are invitations, gentle prompts to lean closer, to listen more intently, to wonder without urgency. As night deepens and the mind softens, we begin to sense the rhythm of history as something almost alive. The walls of ancient temples seem to breathe, their shadows shifting as if echoing forgotten voices. Stones placed with careful hands centuries ago hold the weight of human endeavor, the quiet persistence of individuals striving to leave a mark on the world. And yet, even as these traces endure, there's always more that remains concealed. Stories that were never written, technologies that have vanished, beliefs that transformed or faded entirely. This tension between permanence and loss, between what survives and what is forever hidden, is the essence of mystery. It invites us to walk slowly, to contemplate without rushing, to appreciate the subtle beauty of questions as much as the clarity of answers. In this calm exploration of ancient mysteries, there is no urgency, no need to solve, to conquer, or to prove. Instead, there's a quiet invitation to sit with wonder, to let curiosity drift like a gentle fog, to let the mind wander among ruins, deserts, temples, and forgotten cities. Some mysteries may eventually reveal themselves through careful study or new discovery, while others may remain stubbornly beyond our grasp, teasing the imagination for generations. And it is precisely this interplay, the balance of light and shadow, knowledge and uncertainty, that makes the journey so compelling. As we begin, imagine the faint glow of moonlight on weathered stone, the distant outline of a city lost to time, the hush of wind through empty streets. These are not just remnants of the past. They are windows into the minds and hearts of those who came before, and they invite us to step softly, to observe with patience, and to let the stories of humanity's most enigmatic moments unfold like a gentle dream. In this space, history becomes both a guide and a mystery, leading us forward while leaving just enough in shadow to keep our minds awake with quiet wonder. And so, with the night as our companion, we begin our journey into the astonishing, the puzzling, and the profoundly mysterious worlds of ancient civilizations, inviting curiosity to wander freely, softly, and endlessly. Across the vast tapestry of human history, there are civilizations that flourished with remarkable sophistication, only to vanish as if swallowed by the earth itself. These lost worlds, hidden in the folds of time, leave behind traces that are both tantalizing and incomplete, whispering stories of brilliance, resilience, and sudden disappearance. Picture the Indus Valley civilization, stretching across fertile plains, with cities meticulously planned, streets running in straight lines, and drainage systems so advanced they rival some modern counterparts. For centuries, their writing remains undeciphered, a delicate code etched in clay tablets that guards the thoughts and dreams of a people whose voices have faded into silence. There's a quiet melancholy in this absence, a gentle longing to know the everyday lives of those who built such elegant order from simple beginnings. Moving westward, one can imagine the Olmecs of ancient Mesoamerica, whose monumental stone heads rise from the jungle floor, silent sentinels of a culture that sculpted, painted, and observed the world with keen insight. These colossal creations hint at a society that understood not only the practicalities of agriculture and settlement, but also the symbolic, spiritual expressions of identity and power. The scale of their artistry, combined with the mystery of their origins and eventual decline, evokes a subtle awe, reminding us that ingenuity and enigma often walk hand in hand. There is no rush in contemplating their lives, just a slow, meditative appreciation of the traces they left behind, each carved stone a link across millennia, each vanished city a question whispered through the ages. In the deserts and canyons of the Middle East, the Nabateans carved their civilization from rock itself. Petra, their most enduring legacy, appears almost as if it emerged from the cliffs by magic, facades catching the sunlight in quiet brilliance. The precision of their architecture, the ingenuity of their water channels, and the elegance of their urban design suggest a people deeply attuned to their environment, who transform scarcity into beauty. And yet, with the rise and fall of empires, their knowledge faded, leaving only the echoes of their existence in the stones and the memory of travelers. Standing before such sites, one is struck by the contrast of permanence and impermanence. The structures endure, yet the people and their stories dissolve into history, leaving behind a puzzle that is both tangible and hauntingly elusive. What connects these vanished civilizations is not only their innovation, but also their sudden disappearance. The reasons vary: climate shifts, natural disasters, invasions, economic decline, but often the exact causes remain uncertain. And in that uncertainty lies their quiet power, a gentle invitation to ponder human fragility and resilience. There is a rhythm to this contemplation, a slow unfolding of thought that allows the mind to linger on both the wonder of creation and the inevitability of loss. One can imagine children running through Indus Valley streets, merchants bartering in Olmec plazas, Nabatean artisans chiseling stone under the desert sun, all unaware that their worlds will one day exist only as traces, fragments, and questions. Yet even in absence, these civilizations continue to speak. Archaeology and careful scholarship offer glimpses into their lives, allowing us to piece together patterns, trade networks, and social hierarchies. Excavations reveal tools, jewelry, pottery, and inscriptions, ordinary objects that hint at extraordinary lives. The contrast between the everyday and the monumental is striking. In a single shard of pottery, we see the artistry and practicality of a people who understood both function and beauty. And in the careful study of these remnants, a bridge is formed between past and present, connecting us to the minds and hearts of those who lived and loved, struggled and celebrated, in worlds now hidden beneath layers of earth and memory. What makes these lost civilizations endlessly fascinating is not only what we find, but also what remains unseen. Unexcavated ruins lie beneath modern landscapes, waiting quietly for discovery, while entire societies may have vanished, leaving no trace beyond fleeting mentions in distant texts or legends. The imagination stretches to fill the gaps. How did they govern? What stories did they tell their children at night? How did they celebrate the changing seasons or mourn their dead? In these contemplations, the mind drifts comfortably between fact and possibility, guided by the rhythm of narration and the soft cadence of history whispering through the ages. There is no pressure to solve, only to marvel, to wander slowly through the landscapes of the mind as one wanders through the landscapes of the past. As night deepens, these reflections take on a gentle, almost dreamlike quality. Ruins become echoes, stone walls and plazas become stages for the imagination, where figures long gone move silently, performing the rituals of daily life. The Indus Valley's grand citadels, the Olmec heads watching silently from jungle clearings, Petra's rose-red facades catching the last rays of sun, all these images invite a slow, meditative engagement with history. Listeners are encouraged to let the mind drift from city to city, from desert to jungle, from stone to story, savoring the interplay of discovery and mystery, of presence and absence. Through this journey, a subtle tension emerges. The more we uncover, the more we realize how much remains hidden. Lost civilizations remind us of both the capabilities and the impermanence of humanity. They show the heights of creativity and organization that can be achieved, and yet they also whisper of the fragile threads upon which history balances. This gentle contrast, the beauty of human achievement against the inevitability of loss, creates a space of reflection, inviting listeners to contemplate their own place in the ongoing story of our species. In embracing these vanished worlds, we do not seek definitive answers, nor do we rush to fill the voids they leave behind. Instead, we allow the mind to wander among streets once bustling with life, temples once echoing with ceremony, and marketplaces alive with trade. We sit in the quiet moments, imagining hands shaping stone, minds crafting stories, and hearts dreaming dreams that would outlast their own generations. And in this quiet contemplation, the mysteries of lost civilizations reveal their true power, not merely in what they built or created, but in their ability to awaken our own curiosity, wonder, and reverence for the enduring enigma of history itself. Across the quiet corridors of history, there exist objects that seem almost to defy time itself, artifacts that challenge the boundaries of what we believe ancient people were capable of achieving. They are remnants of a world long past, yet their complexity, precision, or sheer mystery makes us pause and reconsider our understanding of human ingenuity. Take, for example, the Antikythera mechanism, a small, corroded assembly of bronze gears recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Greece. To the untrained eye, it may appear as nothing more than a rusted relic, but close examination reveals an intricate, mechanical calculator designed to predict celestial events, eclipses, and the cycles of the moon and sun. Crafted over 2,000 years ago, it suggests that our ancestors possessed not only a profound observational skill, but also a sophisticated understanding of mathematics and engineering that was thought to be far beyond their time. The Antikythera mechanism whispers quietly across centuries, hinting at knowledge that almost vanished with the currents that carried it to the sea floor. Similarly, there is the enigmatic Baghdad battery, a clay jar containing a copper cylinder and an iron rod, which some researchers speculate could have been used to generate small amounts of electricity. Its purpose remains uncertain, and yet the possibility it represents, that ancient peoples may have experimented with forms of energy long before modern science formalized them, invites endless curiosity. Imagine the hands that assembled it, the minds that conceived it, the questions that drove them to explore phenomena that we now consider advanced. There's a gentle thrill in imagining that everyday life in the past might have been illuminated, literally or metaphorically, by knowledge that we are only now beginning to grasp. Maps, too, offer their quiet mysteries. The Pyre Reis map, a fragment drawn in the early 16th century, depicts the coastlines of South America and even hints at Antarctica, centuries before these lands were officially charted by European explorers. The precision and scope of the map raise questions about the sources of such knowledge and the means by which it was collected. Was it derived from lost ancient voyages, from knowledge passed down through generations, or from charts now irretrievably vanished? The map's very existence bridges the known and the unknown, connecting our modern curiosity with the persistent enigma of human exploration and record-keeping. These artifacts share a unique quality. They are at once tangible and elusive. In their presence, there is a sense of quiet contradiction. They are objects, crafted, held, and used, yet the knowledge required to create them often seems far ahead of their time. They invite us to linger in contemplation, to trace the curves of their design with our imagination, to reconstruct, mentally, the minds and methods behind them. And in doing so, we become companions of the ancients, traveling through history not in haste, but in measured observation, appreciating the depth of thought and skill that went into creating these extraordinary objects. It is not only their function that captivates, but also the stories they tell about the societies that made them. Consider the meticulous care of the Antikythera mechanism's gears. It speaks of a culture that observed the heavens with patience, that valued precision, and that understood the cycles of time in a way that was woven into daily life. The Baghdad Battery, enigmatic as it is, suggests a curiosity about the natural world, an inclination to experiment, and perhaps even an early pursuit of technological understanding that challenges our assumptions about the past. The Pyre Reis map, meanwhile, implies a sophisticated network of knowledge and navigation, a civilization aware of the expansiveness of the world and capable of recording it in ways that resonate centuries later. There's a gentle rhythm in exploring these mysteries, a cadence that balances observation with imagination. Listeners are invited to slow their thoughts, to picture the objects as they once were in the hands of those who created them. The bronze of the Antikythera mechanism gleaming faintly in the Mediterranean sun, the clay of the Baghdad Battery warm from the desert, the delicate ink lines of the Pyre Reis map glinting on parchment. These are not simply artifacts. They are conduits to human thought and curiosity, bridges connecting our present awareness with minds long vanished. And yet, despite centuries of study, many questions remain unanswered. How precisely did the makers of these artifacts conceive of such mechanisms? Were their creations part of a larger, now lost tradition of science and experimentation? What inspired the maps, the devices, the subtle intricacies that continue to confound scholars? The absence of definitive answers is not a source of frustration, but rather a gentle invitation to wonder. The mind is encouraged to float among possibilities, to imagine without conclusion, to engage in the soft, contemplative exercise of speculation that keeps history alive in the imagination. This section is not only about marveling at ingenuity, but also about embracing mystery. Each artifact carries the weight of centuries, yet it also offers the light of discovery. They remind us that the human story is never entirely linear, never entirely known. Knowledge can be gained and lost, understood and misinterpreted, discovered and forgotten. By observing these objects, we recognize the delicate balance between what has survived and what has been lost, between what can be explained and what remains enigmatic. The contrasts are quiet but profound. Knowledge versus mystery, precision versus uncertainty, the human mind then versus the human mind now. As listeners allow themselves to linger in the presence of these artifacts, there's a slow, meditative expansion of awareness. One begins to feel the hands that shaped them, the thoughts that animated them, and the enduring curiosity that links past and present. These objects, silent though they are, speak to the persistence of human ingenuity and imagination, revealing that even in the most distant times, people grappled with questions, experimented with ideas, and reached for understanding in ways that continue to resonate. There's a subtle intimacy in this exploration, a quiet connection across the centuries, as if the objects themselves are inviting us to join in a conversation with history. By the end of this contemplation, the listener is left with a sense of awe and gentle wonder. The artifacts of the past, whether mechanical, artistic, or cartographic, are not simply curiosities. They are reminders of the depth of human creativity and the enduring enigma of our shared journey. They prepare the mind to move forward, to encounter the monumental structures and megaliths that follow, with a heightened sense of curiosity and reverence. For if small object can carry such vast mysteries, then what might entire cities, temples, and monuments conceal within their stones and shadows? The journey into ancient enigmas continues, guided by the same quiet, contemplative rhythm that brings each artifact to life and leading us gently toward the monumental mysteries that await. There are places in the world where stone rises with a quiet authority, monuments that speak without words, massive structures crafted with such precision that even modern eyes struggle to comprehend their construction. Imagine standing before Stonehenge in the soft light of dawn, the air cool, the mist curling around each upright sarsen stone. The sheer scale of the arrangement inspires a profound sense of stillness, as if the earth itself pauses to honor the passage of time. These stones, transported from miles away, set with such careful alignment, evoke questions that have endured for thousands of years. Why were they built, by whom, and how is such monumental precision achieved with simple tools? Here, the known meets the unknown. The visible stones tell of human effort, yet the purpose behind them remains partly shrouded in mystery. Across the Mediterranean, Göbekli Tepe emerges from the Turkish plateau as an even older enigma. Its massive, intricately carved pillars, arranged in circles and adorned with depictions of animals and abstract symbols, suggest a sophistication of thought and ritual previously thought impossible for people of the Neolithic age. Unlike Stonehenge, which aligns with celestial events, Göbekli Tepe predates settled agriculture, raising the tantalizing question of whether religion and ritual preceded the establishment of cities. As you imagine the people who gathered there, moving heavy stones through sheer coordination and determination, there's a quiet awe at their ingenuity. The carvings themselves, with their enigmatic symbolism, speak across millennia, inviting reflection on the spiritual and intellectual lives of those who shaped them. Further east, the pyramids of Egypt rise with a monumental elegance, their geometric perfection casting long shadows in the desert sun. The Great Pyramid of Giza, towering over the sands, embodies both human ambition and mystery. Each limestone block, carefully placed, weighs tons, yet was moved with methods still debated today. The alignment of the pyramids with cardinal points, the mathematical precision in their design, and the astronomical correlations woven into their construction reveal a civilization deeply attuned to the cosmos. And yet, for all their grandeur, the pyramids are more than feats of engineering. They are expressions of belief, of power, and of the human desire to reach beyond the temporal and touch eternity. Standing before them in imagination, one can almost feel the whisper of rituals and the hum of life in a world now vanished, a blend of fact and mystery that quietly fascinates the mind. The contrast between these monumental structures and the humans who built them is striking. On the one hand, there is permanence, endurance, and precision. On the other, there is impermanence, the fleeting presence of those who toiled and envisioned, whose names are mostly lost to time. This duality deepens the sense of mystery, inviting the mind to wander slowly along the lines of possibility. How did they organize labor without written records of complex engineering? What inspired the alignment with stars, solstices, and horizons? Every stone, every circle, every carefully carved glyph is both an answer and a question, tangible proof of achievement intertwined with subtle ambiguity. The mind is encouraged to linger, to imagine the hands and hearts behind the structures, to walk slowly through the balance of what is known and what is forever unknown. The scale of these monuments also evokes an intimate connection with nature. Stonehenge, for instance, seems to grow naturally from the earth, yet it is undeniably shaped by human intention. Göbekli Tepe, rising from a windswept plateau, echoes the animals and cycles of the land around it, its carvings suggesting reverence for the natural world. The pyramids of Giza, stark against the desert, interact with sunlight, shadows, and celestial patterns in ways that transform stone into both art and instrument. There is a rhythm to these interactions, a slow cadence that encourages contemplation. The alignment of stones with the sun and moon, the circles and angles tracing geometric perfection, the subtle echoes of ritual and meaning embedded in physical form. Listening to these stories in imagination, one begins to perceive the quiet dialogue between humans and their environment, a dialogue that endures long after the builders themselves have passed. Megaliths are also reminders of human perseverance and cooperation. The effort required to quarry, transport, and assemble massive stones speaks to societal organization, communication, and shared purpose. The labor, skill, and ingenuity required were monumental, demanding patience and coordination that modern audiences can scarcely grasp. And yet, perhaps this was not merely a practical achievement, but also a spiritual or communal one, a way for early societies to assert presence, connect with ancestors, or mark cycles of time and nature. In each structure, there is evidence of careful planning, observation, and dedication, creating a bridge across centuries to our own understanding of what people can accomplish when inspired by belief, necessity, or vision. As night falls in imagination, these monuments take on a dreamlike quality. The shadows of Stonehenge stretch across the grass. The carvings of Göbekli Tepe catch moonlight in subtle relief, and the pyramids glow faintly under a star-filled sky. The mind drifts through these spaces, noticing the textures of stone, the rhythm of construction, the alignment with horizons and heavens. The monumental becomes personal in this quiet reflection, and the mysteries embedded in every stone invite slow curiosity rather than urgent explanation. Listeners are encouraged to breathe with the narrative, to let the enormity of human ambition settle into a gentle meditation on ingenuity, faith, and the passage of time. Even as we marvel at these constructions, a subtle tension persists. We recognize human capability and intelligence, yet the full picture remains incomplete. How exactly were these feats accomplished without modern tools? What rituals, beliefs, or knowledge guided the choices of their creators? What stories, lost to time, would explain the heart and mind behind each stone? These unanswered questions are not gaps, but openings, spaces for imagination and wonder, the soft pull of history into consciousness, allowing listeners to feel both awe and gentle curiosity. It is in this liminal space between certainty and mystery that the story of ancient monuments finds its most captivating rhythm. In the presence of megaliths and monumental mysteries, the human mind feels small and expansive at once. The enormity of stone contrasts with the transience of human life, while the precision of construction challenges assumptions about the limits of ancient knowledge. Each monument becomes a meditation on what is achievable when vision, dedication, and inspiration converge. There is beauty in the unanswered questions, a calm fascination in the shadows of history, and a soothing awareness that some mysteries are meant to endure, to provoke quiet contemplation rather than hurried resolution. As we leave these colossal stones behind in imagination, the mind carries forward the sense of wonder, now prepared to encounter the cultures and practices of the people who conceived them. The narrative gently flows from physical achievement to human ingenuity, setting the stage to explore not only what was built, but also why it was built and how the beliefs, rituals, and hidden knowledge of ancient peoples shaped the world around them. The journey continues, moving from monumental structures to the enigmatic lives, wisdom, and customs of civilizations that remain partly veiled in mystery, inviting us to wander slowly, peacefully, and endlessly among the echoes of history. Beyond the monumental stones and vast cities lie the cultures that shaped them, societies whose ideas, beliefs, and daily practices remain partially veiled in mystery. These are the people whose hands carved the pillars of temples, whose minds devised complex calendars, and whose stories have been passed down in fragments, sometimes written, often oral, and always tinged with enigma. Consider the Minoans, flourishing on the island of Crete, whose vibrant frescoes and elaborate palaces suggest a civilization of artistry and refinement. Their cities, such as Knossos, reveal sophisticated engineering with advanced plumbing, multi-story structures, and carefully designed ceremonial spaces. Yet, despite these achievements, much of the Minoan language, linear, remains undeciphered, and the spiritual and political systems of their society are largely a puzzle. There is a gentle wonder in imagining the rhythm of life here. Bustling marketplaces, children playing near fountains, priests and priestesses moving with ritual grace through grand halls, all under a sky that has watched this civilization rise and fall. In a distant land, the Etruscans thrived in what is now central Italy, leaving behind tombs rich with symbolic art and inscriptions that hint at a sophisticated society. Their influence on Roman culture is clear in language, religion, and architecture, yet so much about their daily lives, governance, and spiritual beliefs is obscured. These gaps in understanding are not voids, but invitations to reflect, to linger in thought, to imagine the possibilities of a society that valued both tradition and innovation. As we contemplate the Etruscans, we sense the delicate tension between what is preserved in art and text and what remains beyond reach, creating a quiet curiosity that draws the mind deeper into the past. Farther west, the Maya of Mesoamerica developed a culture of extraordinary knowledge and complexity. Their cities, hidden among dense jungles, are aligned with celestial events, and their intricate hieroglyphic writing captures both history and myth. The Maya understood mathematics and astronomy with astonishing precision, and their rituals and calendars suggest a society deeply attuned to the cycles of the cosmos. Yet, centuries of conquest and disease erased much of their written record, leaving archaeologists and historians to piece together fragments of inscriptions, codices, and oral traditions. The partial nature of this record adds to the mystery, inviting the imagination to wander among ceremonial platforms, ball courts, and pyramids, envisioning a culture that thrived on knowledge, ritual, and the delicate balance between life and the cycles of the stars. What unites these enigmatic cultures is the interplay of sophistication and secrecy, knowledge and mystery. Even as they achieved remarkable feats of architecture, art, and science, their deepest beliefs, rituals, and social structures often remain partially hidden. This duality, the contrast between the visible accomplishments and the veiled aspects of their societies, creates a sense of quiet fascination. The mind is encouraged to move slowly, to appreciate the precision of a fresco, the symmetry of a tomb, or the alignment of a ceremonial site, while simultaneously dwelling on the questions that remain unanswered. This balance between clarity and obscurity is soothing yet stimulating, perfect for gentle contemplation before sleep, where curiosity can drift without urgency. The symbolism embedded in artifacts and architecture reveals glimpses of thought, spirituality, and worldview. For example, Minoan frescoes depict elaborate processions, marine life, and ceremonial rituals, hinting at a connection between society, nature, and divinity. Similarly, the decorations in Etruscan tombs, banquets, dancers, and mythic figures suggest beliefs about life, death, and the continuation of the soul beyond the grave. The Maya, too, conveyed complex religious and astronomical ideas through inscriptions, carvings, and temple design. Each symbol, each arrangement, each artistic flourish offers a fragment of understanding, inviting listeners to imagine the patterns of belief and practice that animated daily life. In this gentle exploration, the mind moves as if wandering through the corridors of time, piecing together lives and rituals from the traces left behind. Daily life itself, though less often preserved than monumental works or inscriptions, holds subtle insights into these civilizations. In Minoan Crete, the layout of homes suggests attention to comfort, community, and aesthetics. Etruscan settlements indicate social hierarchy, trade networks, and the rhythm of labor and leisure. Maya urban planning reflects a deep understanding of environmental cycles, water management, and ceremonial prioritization. These details, small yet significant, allow the imagination to inhabit the spaces of the past. One can picture merchants exchanging goods in a market, families sharing meals, or young priests learning the sacred texts under the canopy of a sun-drenched courtyard. It is in these quiet moments that history becomes intimate and personal, bridging the vast distances of time with empathy and awareness. Even as we explore their achievements, these cultures remind us of the fragility and impermanence of human knowledge. Languages fade, texts decay, oral traditions are forgotten, and the daily routines of millions leave only faint traces. Yet within this impermanence lies a profound beauty, the sense that discovery is ongoing, that each artifact, inscription, or ruin offers a new thread to follow, a new story to imagine. There is a gentle thrill in this uncertainty, a calm curiosity that grows in the absence of complete answers. It is a reminder that history is both a repository of what is known and a canvas upon which imagination paints possibilities. The mystery of these cultures is further heightened by the interconnectedness of their achievements. Trade, migration, and cultural exchange allowed ideas, techniques, and beliefs to spread across continents. Yet many of the exact pathways remain elusive. How did knowledge travel from one region to another? What influences shaped art, technology, and ritual practices? Each question encourages a slow, reflective engagement with the past, prompting listeners to consider not only the accomplishments themselves, but also the networks, relationships, and journeys that enabled them. This interplay of connection and ambiguity deepens the fascination, offering layers of contemplation that gently occupy the mind. Ultimately, exploring these enigmatic cultures is an invitation to embrace both understanding and wonder. It is not necessary to have every answer. The richness lies in the discovery, the imagining, and the quiet reflection. Listeners are encouraged to wander mentally through frescoed halls, ceremonial platforms, and bustling marketplaces to feel the rhythms of daily life and to sense the spiritual and intellectual currents that shape these civilizations. In doing so, the mind drifts comfortably between fact and speculation, observation and imagination, forming a meditation on human ingenuity, resilience, and the enduring allure of mystery. As this exploration draws to a close, the mind carries forward an appreciation for both the known and the unknown, ready to encounter the myths, legends, and stories that flow from these enigmatic cultures. The journey moves seamlessly from the material and social achievements of past societies to the symbolic and imaginative worlds they inspired, where ritual, story, and celestial observation intertwine in quiet, contemplative wonder. In this gentle rhythm, listeners are prepared to continue deeper into history, curiosity softly alight, as the mysteries of myth and legend await their turn to unfold. Across the quiet expanse of human history, myths have always occupied a delicate space between imagination and reality. They are stories that speak to the heart, offering explanations for the mysteries of life, the cosmos, and the human experience, while often concealing deeper truths beneath layers of symbolism and narrative flourish. Consider the tale of a great flood, a motif appearing across continents and cultures, from Mesopotamia's Epic of Gilgamesh to the story of Noah in the Hebrew tradition. At first, these are tales of divine wrath or cosmic cleansing, filled with heroes, monsters, and moral lessons. Yet beneath the surface, some scholars suggest they may echo real events, sudden, catastrophic floods that shaped the lives of ancient communities and left lasting impressions on the collective memory. The mind, drifting slowly across these possibilities, is invited to consider how reality can give rise to myth, how the extraordinary can emerge from the patterns of the natural world, and how humans have always sought to explain what they could not fully understand. Similarly, the Tower of Babel legend captures both imagination and subtle reflection on human ambition. In the story, a civilization seeks to build a structure that reaches the heavens, only to be thwarted by the sudden confusion of language. On one level, it is a tale of divine intervention and the consequences of pride. Yet on another, it can be seen as a reflection on the difficulties of large-scale social cooperation, on the challenges faced by ancient builders and communities attempting feats beyond ordinary capability. The legend leaves a gentle tension in the mind, the desire to reach higher, to achieve great things, contrasted with the fragility of human endeavors and the mysteries of failure and disruption. It is a story that lingers softly, evoking curiosity about the line between fact and fiction, between historical possibility and imaginative narrative. In the labyrinth of Crete, another ancient tale unfolds, blending reality with the fantastical. The story of the Minotaur and the intricate labyrinth captures the imagination as a narrative of power, fear, and ingenuity. Yet recent archaeological discoveries suggest that the labyrinth may have been inspired by the complex palace structures of the Minoans, particularly the Palace of Knossos, with its winding corridors, multiple levels, and ceremonial spaces. Here, the legend becomes a bridge, connecting the tangible achievements of architecture with the symbolic storytelling of a culture. It reminds us that myths are often rooted in reality, that the extraordinary narratives we inherit may have begun as reflections of human creativity, societal organization, and encounters with the natural and built environment. Even further afield, myths across the Americas, Africa, and Asia often mirror this interplay of story and reality. Consider the tales of cosmic serpents, giant floods, or celestial beings, which may preserve memories of volcanic eruptions, tidal waves, or astronomical events. These narratives function not only as entertainment or moral instruction, but also as mnemonic devices, allowing knowledge about the environment, survival strategies, and societal rules to pass across generations. In listening to these stories with calm attention, one begins to sense a subtle rhythm. The repetition of motifs, the interplay of character and environment, and the layering of observation, memory, and imagination. The mind moves slowly through these layers, tracing patterns and noticing connections that span time and geography. Myths rooted in reality also illuminate the human desire to understand the unknown. They emerge in cultures where writing may have been limited or lost, where oral tradition preserved both instruction and wonder. When a tale speaks of gods controlling the stars or spirits guiding rivers, it is often a symbolic reflection of observation. The tracking of celestial cycles, the understanding of seasonal patterns, and the interpretation of natural phenomena. Ancient people, attuned to their surroundings, imbued the world with meaning, blending observation with imagination to make sense of what might otherwise appear inexplicable. In this way, myth becomes both a tool of comprehension and a spark of awe, guiding listeners to inhabit a worldview that is simultaneously practical, poetic, and mysterious. The power of these myths lies not only in their content, but also in their structure and delivery. Stories were told slowly, often at night, by the fire, or during ritual gatherings. The cadence of oral tradition allowed listeners to absorb, to imagine, and to internalize complex social, spiritual, and environmental lessons. Every repetition, every embellishment, and every symbolic detail reinforced both knowledge and wonder. For a modern listener, there is a soothing quality in this rhythm. It invites the mind to wander gently, to drift between understanding and curiosity, and to find comfort in the lingering questions that these ancient tales inspire. The enduring fascination with myths is also a reflection of the human tendency to seek patterns. Even when elements seem fantastical, dragons in the sky, immense beasts beneath the earth, gods wielding extraordinary power, there's often an underlying logic. Natural phenomena, unusual geological formations, or rare astronomical events may have inspired the stories, transforming observation into narrative. The interplay of reality and imagination creates a gentle tension that sustains curiosity as the mind lingers on the edge of possibility, tracing connections and envisioning scenarios long past. This balance of fact and mystery is precisely what makes myths compelling and comforting, especially in a slow, reflective listening experience designed for contemplation or gentle sleep. At the heart of these stories is also a subtle meditation on human perception and memory. Myths preserve fragments of events, cultural priorities, and societal values, yet they also shape them, emphasizing certain themes while obscuring others. In this interplay, listeners can sense the pulse of human experience, the desire to explain, to inspire, to warn, and to connect. Ancient myths invite the mind to dwell in ambiguity, to float among possibilities without urgency, and to find pleasure in reflection rather than in resolution. They are stories that do not demand immediate answers. Instead, they reward slow attention, allowing curiosity to expand and imagination to wander through layers of human history and human thought. Consider, for instance, the recurring motif of cataclysmic floods across disparate cultures. While at first glance it appears fantastical, modern research into climate shifts, sea level changes, and regional catastrophes offers possible explanations. The stories endure, not only as myth, but as encoded memories of events that shaped societies. They remind us that reality itself can be stranger than imagination, and that even in storytelling, there's an echo of truth that transcends time. In contemplating these tales with quiet attention, listeners may feel a subtle connection to those who first heard, retold, and preserved them, sensing the continuity of human curiosity, fear, and hope across millennia. As we explore myths rooted in reality, the mind is invited to wander gently from story to story, from legend to possible historical event. There is no urgency to separate fact from fiction, only the calm pleasure of noticing how human beings have always grappled with the unknown. In these narratives, there is a rhythm of reflection, a balance between explanation and wonder, and a quiet acknowledgement of the mystery that lies at the heart of human experience. Each myth becomes a meditation, a soft illumination of both what was observed and what was imagined, echoing across generations in ways that are subtle, profound, and sleep-friendly. In this space, the boundary between history and legend softens, allowing the listener to drift slowly through time. The tales of floods, towers, and labyrinths serve as bridges between observation and imagination, between what was and what might have been, carrying both wonder and reflection. And as the mind absorbs these stories in their gentle cadence, it is prepared to encounter the next layer of ancient mysteries, the places, structures, and observations that shaped human understanding of nature, the cosmos, and the interplay between the two. The journey continues, slow, immersive, and endlessly captivating, as curiosity remains quietly awake, balanced between reality and myth, known and unknown. Across the quiet landscapes of the ancient world, humans have always turned their gaze upward, drawn to the stars, the moon, and the movements of celestial bodies that seem both familiar and incomprehensible. Long before telescopes or scientific instruments, civilizations observed the skies with careful attention, recording patterns, predicting events, and seeking meaning in the cycles of the heavens. Stone circles, megaliths, and ancient observatories were often constructed not merely for ceremonial purposes, but as tools to track the sun, moon, and stars, linking earthly life to the rhythms of the cosmos. Imagine standing at an ancient site as dawn slowly illuminates the horizon, the alignment of stones casting long, deliberate shadows that mark the passing of seasons, guiding agricultural cycles, or signaling ritual occasions. In these quiet observations, one senses the interplay of curiosity, necessity, and wonder that drove early humans to look beyond themselves. Consider the observatories of Chichen Itza, where the precise positioning of the El Castillo pyramid allows the play of sunlight and shadow to create the illusion of a serpent descending the staircase during equinoxes. This delicate interaction of architecture and astronomy is both practical and symbolic, a harmonious blending of observation, engineering, and spiritual expression. Ancient astronomers carefully noted the movements of celestial bodies, developing calendars that guided planting, harvesting, and ceremonial events. Their work required patience, acute observation, and the ability to translate cycles in the sky into human understanding. Standing in imagination at the base of the pyramid, one can almost feel the awe and reverence of those who first witnessed the serpent of light, sensing the profound connection between sky and earth that shaped both belief and daily life. Farther north, at sites like Stonehenge, the alignment of stones with solstices and lunar cycles indicates an equally deep engagement with the heavens. The massive sarsen stones and lintels, positioned with remarkable precision, form a kind of calendar, marking moments when sunlight or shadow falls exactly as intended. These alignments were not arbitrary. They represent centuries of observation and experimentation, a sophisticated understanding of astronomical cycles that guided ceremonial gatherings and perhaps conveyed societal cohesion. The act of aligning stones with cosmic events speaks to a desire not only to measure time, but to participate in it, to integrate human existence with the vast, orderly movements of the universe. There's a gentle rhythm in imagining the gatherings at such sites, the quiet chants, the observations of the sky, the slow passage of time marked by light and shadow. In the deserts of Peru, the Nazca Lines offer another enigmatic example of celestial observation, though their full purpose remains a mystery. These vast geoglyphs, etched into the earth, depict animals, plants, and geometric patterns that stretch for miles. Some researchers suggest that they may correspond to constellations or water sources, reflecting a sophisticated understanding of the environment and the sky above. Viewed from the ground, they are subtle. From the air, their patterns are revealed in all their grandeur. The scale of the lines, combined with their potential astronomical and ritual significance, invites contemplation of how ancient people perceive their world, linking the terrestrial and celestial in ways that are both practical and mystical. There is a quiet wonder in tracing the paths of these lines with the imagination, picturing hands carefully removing stones, communities coordinating to form precise shapes, and the underlying knowledge that guided their creation. Even in regions with limited written records, natural features became observatories. Mountains, cliffs, and rock formations were often chosen for their vantage points, allowing observers to track the sun's position or follow the phases of the moon. Rock carvings and alignments indicate that observation was systematic and deliberate, blending utility with symbolism. Observing the heavens became a way of understanding time, seasons, and human place within the broader cosmos. The act of measuring and predicting celestial events was both scientific and spiritual, a reminder that curiosity and wonder are timeless companions of human thought. These ancient observations reflect a sophisticated integration of knowledge and imagination. The creation of calendars, the alignment of monuments, and the recording of astronomical phenomena required careful observation over years, sometimes decades. It is remarkable to consider the patience, precision, and foresight that ancient societies invested in this pursuit. Each sighting of a solstice, each careful notation of a lunar cycle, each alignment of stones or lines becomes a gentle echo across centuries, a reminder that humans have always sought patterns, meaning, and connection with the vast universe beyond our immediate perception. The mind, moving slowly through this contemplation, senses a continuity of curiosity that spans generations. Nature itself often posed puzzles that demanded ingenuity. Seasonal changes, shifting rivers, unexpected floods, and unusual celestial events required observation, recording, and interpretation. Ancient people did not merely react. They studied, predicted, and integrated these patterns into their daily lives, ceremonial practices, and spiritual frameworks. The result was a culture of attentive observation, where nature and cosmos were not separate from human experience, but intimately woven into the fabric of existence. There is a soothing quality in imagining these interactions, the quiet dedication of those who observed, calculated, and recorded, and the slow, deliberate unfolding of knowledge that informed everything from planting to ritual. The interplay of mystery and understanding in these observatories is striking. On one hand, ancient humans achieved extraordinary precision in predicting celestial events, demonstrating knowledge that rivals modern understanding in certain respects. On the other, the reasons behind some alignments, the full purposes of certain structures, and the cultural context in which these observations occurred remain partly hidden. This balance between known and unknown, between clarity and enigma, encourages a gentle curiosity that is ideal for reflection and nighttime listening. The mind can drift freely, tracing the lines of stones, imagining the movement of the sun, and contemplating the wisdom embedded in ancient observation without the need for immediate answers. There's also a poetic beauty in the rhythm of celestial observation. Days lengthen and shorten, stars rise and fall, seasons turn in endless cycles. Ancient societies captured these rhythms in stone, in earth, and in ritual, creating a legacy that allows modern observers to sense the passage of time across millennia. By following the alignment of a shadow on a solstice stone or the rising sun through a carefully positioned gap, one glimpses a form of understanding that is simultaneously practical and profoundly aesthetic. These observations were not merely functional. They were a meditation on the cosmos, a recognition of human fragility and potential, a dialogue between the finite human lifespan and the infinite expanse of the universe. As night falls in imagination, these ancient observatories take on a dreamlike quality. Shadows stretch across stone circles, sunlight dances along pyramid faces, and lines in the desert seem to shimmer under the stars. The quiet attention of past observers seems to echo across time, inviting modern minds to join in their meditation, to feel the rhythm of celestial cycles, and to recognize the profound connection between human life and the cosmos. In this reflective space, curiosity flows gently, neither rushed nor resolved, sustaining a soft engagement with the mysteries that shaped human understanding and awe. By contemplating nature's puzzles and ancient observatories, listeners are invited to inhabit a world where observation and imagination coexist. The alignment of stones, the careful tracking of celestial events, and the integration of natural patterns into daily life and ritual form a tapestry of wisdom that is subtle, expansive, and endlessly intriguing. This section prepares the mind to move forward, seamlessly transitioning toward the exploration of hidden technologies, ingenious inventions, and other mysteries of human creativity, all woven into the larger story of ancient knowledge and its enduring allure. In the quiet heart of the world, there are places where the earth itself seems to hum with a subtle energy. Ancient sanctuaries carved into mountains, cities built upon impossible cliffs, temples raised with a devotion that feels older than time. These are the sacred sites, the gateways of the earth. To wander among them is to step into another rhythm of being, one where stone, sky, and silence merge into a kind of living presence. Long before modern science began to measure magnetic fields and tectonic lines, our ancestors felt the world through intuition, through the pulse beneath their feet and the whisper of the wind moving through stone. They spoke of ley lines, of pathways that connect holy sites across continents, tracing invisible rivers of energy that flow through the bones of the planet itself. Consider Machu Picchu, poised like a dream between clouds and earth. The stones fit so perfectly together that no blade of grass can pass between them. It is not only a feat of engineering, it is an act of harmony. The Incas chose this site not just for defense or beauty, but for alignment. The sun, the mountains, and the sacred geometry of the terraces all mirror cosmic patterns above. To stand there, even now, is to feel a strange clarity, as if the world is whispering through the stone. The line between architecture and prayer dissolves. Thousands of miles away, another power stirs at Delphi, where the ancient Greeks believed the navel of the world lay. The oracle's temple rested above a chasm from which vapors rose, said to carry messages from Apollo himself. Whether or not the fumes caused trance or vision, the site's placement was deliberate, on the meeting point of geologic faults, where the Earth's breath escapes in subtle tremors. To the ancients, this was no coincidence. The land was alive, speaking in signs and sensations. Delphi was not simply built upon a sacred site. It was a conversation with the earth, an act of listening. On the lonely shores of the Pacific, the statues of Easter Island gaze toward the horizon with their eternal calm. Moai, carved from volcanic rock, their faces solemn and watchful. Scholars debate their purpose. Ancestral guardians, astronomical markers, symbols of mana, the spiritual force that flows through all life. The island itself is dotted with ancient quarries and platforms aligned to celestial events, as though its builders were mapping both heaven and earth in one continuous gesture. Here again, belief and geometry intertwine, each stone a node in a grand, unseen network. These places, spread across oceans and ages, share a quiet pattern. They are not random wonders. They sit where the land feels awake, where water flows beneath or magnetic anomalies ripple in strange ways. Some researchers have begun to measure subtle shifts in electromagnetic fields around ancient temples, though the results remain uncertain. Others suggest that the very act of sacred attention, the gathering of faith and ceremony over centuries, creates an imprint, a resonance that lingers. Whether the power precedes the people or the people awaken, the power remains a mystery, like the question of whether music lives in the strings or in the space between the notes. As night deepens, imagine walking among these sites in silence. The stones breathe with warmth retained from the sun. The air trembles with ancient presence. In such places, logic grows soft and intuition takes its place. You begin to understand why so many myths speak of portals, of doors between worlds that open only for those who listen. Sacred geography is not just about alignment or architecture, it is about attunement. The ancients built where their hearts told them the veil between worlds was thin. They did not seek to dominate nature, but to converse with it, to join the heartbeat of the earth. Modern eyes often search for practical explanations, trade routes, resource access, strategic visibility. And yet, when you stand before these monuments, the rational answers fade into something more poetic. There's a sense of memory here, an echo of intention that transcends its builders. You can almost feel the hum beneath your skin, subtle but insistent, as if the ground remembers every ritual ever performed upon it. The stones keep their silence, but their silence is not emptiness, it is depth. The idea of hidden energy lines, what some call ley lines, may not yet fit comfortably within science, but the intuition behind it persists. Across cultures, there are tales of dragon lines in China, spirit roads in Europe, song lines in Australia. Each describes a network of vitality that connects sacred places, natural wonders, and ancient human sites. When viewed together, the pattern is uncanny, as if our ancestors, separated by oceans, somehow traced the same invisible map. Perhaps it is not about physics or mysticism, but perception. The people of old lived closer to the land, guided by the rise of constellations and the murmur of rivers. They did not measure the earth, they felt it. They recognized in the shape of hills and the path of the sun a reflection of their own pulse. To build a temple was to honor that kinship, to weave human time into the timeless breath of the world. Even now, pilgrims and travelers who visit these ancient sanctuaries report a sense of calm, of clarity, as if something within them resonates with the place. Whether this is psychological, spiritual, or energetic matters less than the experience itself. In a world of noise and distraction, these sites remind us how to listen again, to stone, to silence, to the gentle rhythm beneath all things. The mystery of sacred geography invites a question that echoes softly as the wind moves through temple columns and mountain passes. Did our ancestors build upon energy, or did their belief create it? Maybe both truths coexist, intertwined like roots beneath the soil. The earth, after all, has its own memory, and perhaps the stones remember not only the hands that shaped them, but the prayers whispered between them. As the narration drifts to a close, the camera glides slowly over mountain ridges glowing in twilight, across pyramids that catch the last light of day. The hum of the planet fades into a gentle heartbeat. These gateways of the earth, Delphi, Machu Picchu, Easter Island, and countless others, stand not just as relics of the past, but as mirrors of something eternal. They're the points where the human spirit touches the infinite, where heaven bends down to meet the earth. And from this meeting of worlds, another question begins to rise as soft and persistent as dawn. If these places were built for the gods, who? Or what? Were those gods really? The journey now turns upward, from the sacredness of the land to the mysteries of the divine, where myth and history begin to share the same breath. The world of the gods is a mirror held up to humanity. In every ancient civilization, from the sunlit temples of Egypt to the marble sanctuaries of Greece and the fertile plains of Mesopotamia, the divine takes form in stories that seem both familiar and unfathomable. These myths are not merely tales of creation and destruction. They are echoes of human longing, reflections of the eternal questions. Who are we? Why are we here? What power moves behind the veil of reality? As twilight settles over the ancient world, we step into a realm where gods walk among mortals, where thunder is a voice and rivers are living spirits. The Egyptians believed that the gods breathed order into chaos each dawn, rebirthing the sun across the horizon. Ra sailed through the underworld each night, battling serpents of darkness so that light might return. Across the sea, the Greeks told of Zeus casting his bolts from Olympus, of Athena whispering wisdom into human minds, of Hades guarding the shadowed boundaries of existence. In Mesopotamia, the Anunnaki descended from the heavens to shape mankind from clay. Different names, different tongues, but the same pulse. These myths feel like a collective dream, shared across time. The patterns repeat like constellations that never fade. A sky father, a mother of creation, a hero's descent into the underworld, a flood that cleanses and renews. The resonance is too strong to dismiss as coincidence. Perhaps, as Carl Jung once suggested, these stories arise from the collective unconscious, a deep reservoir of symbols and archetypes that humanity carries within its soul. Or perhaps, they're the faint memory of something real, something witnessed by ancient eyes long before memory turned to myth. The calm rhythm of the narration slows, allowing the listener to imagine torchlight flickering across carved walls, scenes of gods towering above humanity. Each culture tried to express the ineffable through image and story, through ritual and prayer. The gods were not distant abstractions. They were part of the living world. The Nile's flood was the breath of Osiris. The thunder was Thor's hammer. The morning star was the terror of Inanna. Myth was not fiction. It was a language for truth that reason could not contain. And yet, within the beauty of these myths lies their shadow. For every tale of divine protection, there is one of wrath. The same gods who bestow life also demand sacrifice. Floods, plagues, wars, all were interpreted as the moods of the divine. In this duality lies one of the oldest human realizations, that creation and destruction are intertwined, that light cannot exist without shadow. Ancient temples were built not to escape this balance, but to honor it. Inside their walls, priests offered hymns to both gods of mercy and gods of chaos, acknowledging the wholeness of existence. The narrator's voice softens, tracing the thread between myth and memory. Could it be that these stories once recorded events beyond our comprehension? When the Sumerians spoke of beings descending from the stars, or when a Maya described gods teaching them the measure of time, were they encoding spiritual truth or recounting something literal? In every myth, there is a spark of the real, wrapped in metaphor. Even now, the line between divine vision and historical memory blurs. Perhaps myth was never meant to explain the past, but to preserve the feeling of wonder, the reverence for mysteries that lie just beyond the reach of proof. The gods themselves seem to evolve alongside humanity. In the earliest ages, they are vast and elemental, fire, sky, ocean, earth. As civilizations rise, they become more human, more reflective of our emotions and flaws. Zeus's jealousy, Isis's devotion, Enki's cunning. These are mirrors of the human psyche. Mythology, then, becomes a map of the soul, showing us not what the heavens contain, but what the heart conceals. Each deity is a fragment of consciousness, an aspect of our shared inner world. When ancient priests invoke their gods, perhaps they were also awakening hidden parts of themselves. There's a strange serenity in realizing that myth and psychology may be one and the same. The stories that once explained lightning and death now illuminate the inner storms of the mind. The underworld journeys of heroes mirror our own descents into grief and transformation. The resurrection of Osiris, the rebirth of Persephone. These are not just celestial dramas, but allegories of human resilience. Myths remind us that darkness is not the end. It is the seabed of renewal. As the music deepens, the narration weaves through time again. Imagine the chants of Sumerian priests rising into the night, the smoke of incense spiraling toward the stars. Somewhere in that rhythm lies an unbroken connection, a pulse shared between human and divine. Each generation retells the myths, reshapes the gods, yet the core remains unchanged. Even in modern times, the same archetypes reappear in new forms. Heroes who sacrifice, forces of order and chaos, creators and destroyers. The stage shifts, but the story continues. The persistence of these myths raises an unsettling question. Are we remembering something we once knew? Perhaps the gods are not inventions, but memories, echoes of beings or intelligences that once walked beside us, later transfigured by time into symbols. Or perhaps the gods have always been within, waiting for our attention, their temples built not of stone, but of consciousness. The difference between the two may be smaller than we think. The narration softens to a whisper. The gods may have faded from our temples, but they have not vanished. They live in our language, in our stories, in the way we reach toward meaning when faced with the unknown. Every time a storm rolls in or the sun breaks over a mountain, we feel a trace of the same our ancestors felt. Myth is the memory of wonder, the sacred way the universe first introduced itself to us. As this chapter closes, the camera drifts across crumbling temples and fading hieroglyphs, across statues worn smooth by centuries of wind and prayer. The faces of the gods are eroded, but their gaze remains. Somewhere between imagination and eternity, they still watch, silent and enduring. The listener feels a quiet pull, as though something ancient stirs not in the world, but in the self. And just as the last notes fade, the narrative prepares to move forward, from the gods who shaped humanity to the humans who sought to preserve their wisdom. For when the divine grew silent, there were those who kept its flame alive, the priests, the sages, the secret keepers of forbidden knowledge. Across the long corridors of time, there have always been those who listened more deeply than others. Men and women who stood between worlds, keeping the fragile bridge between heaven and earth intact. In ancient temples and hidden chambers, they were known as the keepers, the custodians of sacred knowledge. Their task was not to rule through power, but to guard through silence. They understood that wisdom, once released too freely, could burn like fire, illuminating or destroying depending on the heart that received it. These were the priests, the magi, the sages, and later the initiates of secret orders who carried the ancient flame forward through centuries of darkness. In the temple cities of Egypt, the priesthood was not a single class, but a hierarchy of spiritual disciplines. Within the house of life, initiates studied astronomy, mathematics, medicine, and the sacred art of harmony, the balance between matter and spirit. They believed the body was a temple mirroring the cosmos, and that by understanding the patterns of the heavens, one could touch the divine order itself. The high priest of Heliopolis gazed into the rising sun each morning, reciting hymns that aligned the human soul with Ra's eternal voyage across the sky. The rituals were mathematical poetry, where gesture and geometry met in rhythm and light. But beneath the public ceremonies lay hidden texts, codices written in esoteric language, revealing truths too subtle for ordinary eyes. Those who sought them faced tests of patience, humility, and silence. In Babylon, the Magi watched the night sky from the tops of ziggurats, reading the stories written in starlight. To them, the heavens were not distant. They were a divine manuscript, recording fate and prophecy. Their art of astrology was not mere superstition. It was a sacred dialogue between the macrocosm and the microcosm. Every celestial movement echoed in human affairs. The Magi were both scientists and mystics, their calculations precise, yet guided by intuition. They taught that to know the stars was to know oneself, for man was made of the same substance, dust and fire, matter and dream. As the world grew older and empires fell, the sacred line of knowledge did not vanish. It went underground. In the shadows of Greece and Alexandria, philosophers and initiates gathered in private schools. Pythagoras, remembered as a mathematician, was also a mystic who taught that numbers were divine beings, the foundation of existence. His disciples lived by strict silence, bound by vows not to reveal the teachings of harmony that joined sound, shape, and soul. They called it the music of the spheres, a truth so profound that it linked mathematics with emotion, order with creation itself. Later, in the mystery schools of Eleusis and Orpheism, initiates reenacted the cycles of death and rebirth, learning through vision rather than doctrine. The rituals were never written down. They lived in experience, in whispers, in the trembling of candles within subterranean halls. When the torch of ancient Egypt and Greece dimmed, the flame passed eastward and inward. Hermetic philosophy, the wisdom attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, became the vessel for what remained. In dusty scrolls and coded treatises, it preserved the notion that as above, so below. This single phrase became a key for centuries of seekers. It meant that the divine order of the cosmos was mirrored in the human being, that by knowing oneself, one could know the universe. From this seed grew the secret traditions of alchemy, Kabbalah, and mystical Christianity, paths that sought transformation, not domination. To the Hermeticist, gold was not the goal, but the metaphor. True alchemy was the purification of the soul, the turning of leaden consciousness into luminous awareness. In medieval times, when the fires of ignorance and fear swept through Europe, knowledge had to hide behind symbols. The builders of cathedrals encoded sacred geometry into stone, shaping arches and spires as prayers in architectural form. The Templars, whispered to be guardians of ancient wisdom, carried fragments of lost teachings from the East. Whether myth or truth, their legend reflects a universal theme, that sacred knowledge must sometimes cloak itself in secrecy to survive. Even as empires burned libraries and silenced thinkers, secret fraternities emerged. Rosicrucians, Hermetic orders, and later, the Freemasons, each claiming descent from a primordial wisdom. They used symbols instead of sermons, ritual instead of rule, to keep the memory of the invisible world alive. The narrator's tone softens, almost like a confession. Knowledge, in these traditions, was never about superiority. It was about responsibility. To hold truth meant to protect it, not to wield it. The keepers of ancient wisdom believed that the divine could not be taught directly. It had to be experienced, unfolded like a lotus in the mind of the seeker. This is why they spoke in riddles, hid meaning in allegory, and used initiation as a slow awakening. They were not hiding knowledge out of greed, but out of reverence, because they understood how fragile the balance between revelation and chaos truly was. There is a quiet beauty in imagining these silent lineages, each generation lighting a candle from the one before it. In hidden rooms, in mountain caves, in scriptoriums where monks copied forbidden texts by moonlight, the chain of memory continued. Even in times when it seemed humanity had forgotten the sacred, there were always those who remembered. Their presence was often invisible, like a faint pulse beneath the noise of history, reminding the world that not all treasures are buried in the ground. Some are buried in consciousness itself. As centuries passed, the line between religion and secrecy blurred. The keepers became philosophers, scientists, mystics. In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars in Baghdad and Cairo studied Greek and Egyptian texts, reawakening old knowledge under new light. Alchemists like Jabir ibn Hayyan and later Paracelsus carried forward the Hermetic principle, blending observation with imagination. The chain continued even into the Renaissance, where figures like Giordano Bruno spoke of infinite worlds and the divinity within every star, ideas that would cost him his life. Yet his fire, like that of so many before him, did not truly die. The gentle tone of the narration draws the listener into contemplation. Across the ages, the keepers of hidden knowledge appear like constellations, scattered yet connected. Each held a fragment of the great mystery, a single spark from a sun that perhaps once blazed openly in a forgotten age. They lived in different lands, spoke different tongues, but their language was always the same, the pursuit of unity between the human and the divine. And so, as we drift toward the next chapter of this journey, one truth begins to crystallize like morning light through stained glass. The knowledge they guarded did not vanish. Some of it still lingers, waiting patiently within ancient texts, buried in lost libraries and coded manuscripts. Others remain hidden not in books, but in the silent corridors of intuition. For those who still seek the wisdom of the ancients, the question now becomes, where are those sacred words today? What books survive the fall of empires, carrying within them the voices of the gods? The next part of the story opens those forgotten pages, letting the dust of ages rise gently into the air. The words that never die, the messages written for a future that is now. The world holds stories not only in stone but also in words. Words so ancient, so carefully guarded, that even time itself seems reluctant to erase them. Across ruined temples and fallen empires, a few fragments remain. Texts that hum with quiet power, pages inked with longing, secrecy, and reverence. These are the voices of the ancients, the books that refuse to die. They are not ordinary records of kings and wars. They're the whispers of eternity captured on fragile scrolls and hidden tablets. To open them, even in imagination, is to touch the breath of those who once sought to bridge heaven and earth through the written word. In the shadowed libraries of Egypt, scribes wrote upon papyrus by the glow of oil lamps, their brushes moving with ritual precision. Among their most sacred writings were the books of Thoth, said to contain the secrets of creation and the paths of the gods. Legend tells that whoever understood them could command both the heavens and the underworld, a knowledge too vast for mortal hands. Whether myth or memory, these stories hint at something profound, that the written word was not only a tool of communication, but a vessel of transformation. To write was to invoke, to read was to awaken. Centuries later, a different text would rise from the same spirit, the Emerald Tablet. No larger than a single page, yet would ripple through the ages, shaping the minds of alchemists, mystics, and philosophers. Its mysterious words, "That which is below is like that which is above," became the cornerstone of Hermetic thought. The tablet spoke of the unity between heaven and earth, matter and spirit, and hinted that all creation springs from a single source. Though its origins remain unknown, some say it was carved in Atlantis, others that it was revealed to Hermes Trismegistus by divine beings. The power of its message endures. It is both a riddle and a promise, inviting humanity to remember what it once knew, that the universe and the self are mirrors reflecting the same eternal truth. As the voice softens, the listener is guided through the corridors of Alexandria, where the greatest library of the ancient world once stood. Imagine the scent of parchment, the echo of footsteps on marble floors, the murmur of scholars speaking languages now lost. Within those walls lay scrolls of science and sorcery, philosophy and prophecy. When the flames consumed the library, it was more than paper that burned. It was memory itself. Some say that hidden chambers beneath the city still cradle fragments of that vanished wisdom, sealed away from the reach of empire and time. Others whisper that the survivors carried copies across the desert, burying them in temples and caves, waiting for a future age to rediscover them. From the sands of Egypt, the journey drifts eastward and skyward, into the highlands where the Book of Enoch was once revered. This ancient text, older than the Bible's oldest chapters, speaks of angels who descended to earth and taught humanity forbidden arts, the knowledge of metal, of medicine, of the stars. It tells of the watchers who fell from grace and of the flood sent to cleanse the world of their corruption. For centuries, this book was hidden, banned, and nearly lost. Yet it resurfaced in Ethiopia, preserved by monks who copied it with quiet devotion. The Book of Enoch blurs the line between myth and memory, its words echoing the same mysteries that haunted Sumerian and Egyptian lore. Whether divine revelation or distant recollection of another age, it remains one of the most haunting voices of the ancient world. In the humid jungles of Central America, glyphs carved into stone speak of similar dreams. Gods who came from the stars, calendars that charted not only time but destiny. The Mayan codices, few of which survived the fires of conquest, record vast cycles of creation and destruction. The Dresden Codex, one of the last survivors, maps the motion of Venus with a precision that modern astronomy still admires. It is as if the ancients wrote with both science and spirit, uniting what we now separate. Their books were living instruments, designed not just to inform, but to connect humanity with the rhythm of the cosmos. The narration slows, lingering on the image of a candle flickering over an open manuscript. Across civilizations, the written word carried not only history, but hidden meaning, layers of symbolism known only to initiates. In the Hermetic and alchemical texts of the Middle Ages, for example, gold was never only metal, and fire was never merely heat. Every word was a cipher, every diagram a key. The Emerald Tablet itself inspired centuries of coded writings, grimoires, and treatises disguised as chemistry, concealing spiritual transformation within formulas and symbols. Knowledge became a labyrinth, and only those with inner vision could find the center. The story continues in whispers through time. The Nag Hammadi texts, unearthed in Egypt in 1945, revealed entire worlds of forgotten thought. Gospels that spoke not of sin and punishment, but of divine awakening and inner light. These words have been buried for nearly 2,000 years, hidden by those who feared their truth would be lost to dogma and fire. To read them today, is to feel the same ancient heartbeat that pulsed through the Hermetic scrolls and Sumerian tablets. The call to remember that divinity is not somewhere else, but within. Each discovery, each recovered text, feels like a message in a bottle sent across millennia. The Book of the Dead, the Tablets of Babylon, the Codex Gigas, the Dead Sea Scrolls, they all speak, in their own language, of humanity's yearning to touch the infinite. Together, they form a mosaic of memory, a library that spans continents and lifetimes. And yet, for every text that survives, there are 100 that have vanished. Somewhere beneath desert sands or behind sealed walls lie scrolls we may never read, the unwritten chapters of human consciousness. There's poetry in that loss. The missing words remind us that knowledge is not meant to be complete. The gaps between what we know and what we have lost are what keep wonder alive. Perhaps the ancients understood this, which is why they spoke so often in riddles and symbols. Truth, when fully revealed, becomes ordinary. Mystery keeps it sacred. As a narration softens toward its close, the focus shifts gently from the page to the earth itself. If so many sacred texts have been lost or buried, what else might sleep beneath our feet? The same question that haunted explorers and philosophers through the ages stirs again. Are there still hidden chambers, sealed libraries, or subterranean halls holding the knowledge of forgotten ages? The pages close softly, as if the books themselves are exhaling after being read. Their words linger in the air like incense, faint but enduring, a bridge between human curiosity and divine remembrance. And so the story turns downward now, into the depths below sand and sea, where what has been lost still waits to be found, and where the silence of the earth may yet speak louder than any written word. Beneath the quiet skin of the earth, beneath the weight of oceans and the drifting sands of time, there are places where history sleeps. Caverns sealed by dust, temples swallowed by stone, cities drowned in silence. Humanity walks upon the surface of the world like a dreamer who has forgotten the dreams that lie below. Every now and then, the ground opens or the sea pulls back, and a whisper escapes, a doorway, a chamber, a ruin that seems to have waited for us to remember. This is where the known and the unknown meet, the archaeology of mystery, the geography of the unseen. The deserts of Egypt hold many secrets, but some of the most haunting are those that have not yet been found. Beneath the sands near the Sphinx, explorers have long suspected the presence of hidden tunnels and vast chambers, the so-called Hall of Records, a mythical vault said to contain the chronicles of a civilization that predates recorded time. The idea may have begun as legend, but modern ground scanning has revealed anomalies, cavities and passages that seem to defy explanation. Are they natural formations, or the remnants of something intentionally concealed? The Sphinx itself, eroded and ancient beyond measure, feels like a guardian. Its eyes have watched millennia pass. If anything lies beneath its paws, perhaps it is not simply relics, but memory itself, the coded dream of an age that vanished before history began. To the west, the sands conceal other whispers. In the Siwa oasis, near the ruins of the Oracle of Ammonius, there are legends of buried halls and sunken stairways leading to chambers of initiation. The desert, shifting and alive, hides and reveals by its own rhythm. Sometimes, a storm uncovers a wall, a fragment of statue, a doorway that leads nowhere but downward. The ancients built for eternity, yet even eternity erodes. Still, something in their design resists decay, as if stone itself has chosen to remember what humankind has forgotten. Far from Egypt's golden horizons, the mysteries continue beneath the sea. Off the coast of Japan, near Yonaguni, massive stone formations rise from the ocean floor, terraces, steps, and platforms that appear carved by human hands. Some scholars insist they are natural. Others see the remnants of a lost civilization, a Japanese Atlantis swallowed by waves 12,000 years ago. Divers who descend into those depths describe a stillness unlike anything else, the silence of deep water mixed with the weight of time. Fish glide through doorways. Coral blooms upon forgotten pillars. Whether sculpted by nature or by man, Yanaguni reminds us how fragile the boundary is between myth and memory, between the living world and the one that dreams beneath it. Not far away, in the Mediterranean, other ruins rest beneath the waves. The sunken city of Heracleon near the Nile Delta, once a thriving port, now ghostly and luminous beneath green light. Columns, statues, coins, and offerings still lie scattered across the seabed, perfectly preserved. For centuries, Heracleon existed only in myth, a name mentioned by Herodotus and dismissed by scholars. But in 2000, divers found it exactly where legend had placed it, disproving centuries of doubt. It was a humbling reminder that the line between story and truth is not as sharp as we imagine. The sea remembers. It holds what the earth forgets. And then there are the caves, the dark veins of the planet that twist through stone like arteries of mystery. In Turkey, entire underground cities have been discovered. Derinkuyu, Kemakli, and others, carved deep enough to house thousands of people. Passages stretch for miles, descending layer after layer, complete with air shafts, stables, and places of worship. Who built them and why? Were they refuges from invaders or remnants of an even older age? A subterranean civilization seeking safety from a cataclysm above? The air down there feels ancient, heavy with a silence that speaks of waiting. In South America, legends tell of similar depths, of tunnels beneath the Andes, said to connect sacred sites across vast distances. Some explorers claim to have seen walls lined with a strange metallic sheen. Others have vanished searching for them. Whether true or imagined, these stories echo a single, recurring theme: that humanity once moved between the worlds of surface and shadow with ease, and that we have since forgotten how. The labyrinth beneath the earth may be real or symbolic, a reflection of the hidden chambers of our own mind. Modern science approaches these mysteries with caution, yet even the most skeptical archaeologist must admit, we have explored only a fraction of what lies below. Vast areas remain untouched, their secrets sealed beneath layers of rock and time. The earth is not a static archive. It shifts, buries, protects. It seems to hold its own intelligence, choosing when to reveal and when to conceal. Some discoveries feel almost deliberate, as if the planet itself decides when humanity is ready to remember. There's a haunting poetry in the way ruins emerge. A farmer's plow catches on a buried stone that turns out to be an altar. A storm erodes a cliff, revealing a temple wall. A satellite image captures the outline of a forgotten city beneath jungle canopy. Each moment of revelation feels less like coincidence and more like conversation. The earth whispering, "Look closer." Perhaps we are not uncovering history, but being allowed to witness it, piece by fragile piece. The narration slows, the tone drifting toward dream. Beneath the sands, beneath the waves, beneath the soil, something waits. Not just artifacts, but evidence of an unbroken continuum, a lineage of thought, of art, of wonder. Every discovery draws us nearer to understanding, yet each new find deepens the mystery. For every city unearthed, another disappears beneath rising seas or crumbling cliffs. The balance remains perfect, enough revealed to keep us seeking, enough hidden to keep us humble. The listener can almost feel the cool air of the catacombs, the dim light of a diver's torch sweeping across a submerged pillar. These images merge into a single, timeless sensation, the awareness that we are walking atop untold worlds. The ground beneath our feet is not solid, but layered with ghosts. Civilizations rise and fall, and yet the traces remain, folded into the earth's memory. And so the story turns inward again. For if the earth holds these buried chambers, what hidden rooms lie within ourselves? Just as ancient knowledge sleeps beneath sand and stone, perhaps memory, myth, and truth sleep beneath the conscious mind, waiting to be rediscovered. The descent into the underworld, whether literal or symbolic, has always been part of the human journey. It is there, in darkness and depth, that wisdom is reborn. As the final words of this section fade, the sound of dripping water echoes softly, steady, eternal. The camera would linger on an underwater temple, sunlight rippling across forgotten carvings. Somewhere between the surface and the abyss, between what we know and what we sense, the mystery continues to breathe. And from that darkness, the next reflection begins to stir. The idea that perhaps what lies buried in the world also lives within the dreaming mind, waiting patiently for us to awaken. As twilight folds once more across the horizon, the voice returns to the rhythm of the earth. The story has moved far beyond ruins and stars now, into a quiet contemplation of cycles, creation, loss, rediscovery, and rebirth. Everything that ever was, it seems, continues to exist in some form, changed but not destroyed. The ancients believed in this continuity. To them, death was only transformation. In the Egyptian texts, the sun god Ra descended each night into the underworld, only to rise again renewed. The same truth hums in every tradition, that endings are beginnings wearing different names. Humanity, too, moves through its own cycles of forgetting and remembering. We lose knowledge to fire, to time, to indifference, yet finds a way back, disguised as intuition, inspiration, or dream. Perhaps the reason we're drawn to mysteries is not to learn something new, but to recall something ancient within ourselves, something that already knows. In that recognition, mystery becomes not a puzzle, but a mirror. The music deepens softly, the tone wrapping around the listener like dusk air. The narration reminds us that the greatest civilizations never truly vanished. They continue through the pulse of memory, the echo of symbols, the inheritance of curiosity. Even as cities fall silent, the human spirit keeps building, invisible temples made of wonder, love, and thought. There is a moment in every journey when the seeker stops searching and simply listens. That is where wisdom lives, not in answers, but in stillness. The ancients practiced this in many forms: silent meditation in desert caves, chants that matched the rhythm of breath, and pilgrimages that mirrored the soul's path. They understood that silence is not emptiness, it is presence. It holds everything. The narrator's voice moves slowly, like waves. It speaks of how modern life, with its noise and speed, often drowns out that silence. Yet beneath it all, the same eternal hum persists, the pulse of the earth, the heartbeat of the stars, the breath of being itself. We are never separate from it, only distracted. The mysteries remind us to pause, to listen, to remember that stillness is not the absence of life, but the essence of it. In that stillness, one begins to sense the quiet connection between all things, the way a thought ripples through time, the way an ancient song can awaken something forgotten. The listener is invited to breathe, to let the boundaries between body and world dissolve. For a moment, there is no distance, no history, no separation, only harmony, soft and infinite. As the story nears its final breath, the tone becomes luminous, like the faint light before sunrise. The mysteries, it says, were never meant to be solved, only lived. They are threads of awareness woven through existence, guiding us gently back to wonder. The ancients left their signs not as challenges, but as invitations, reminders to feel the sacred in the ordinary, to see time not as a line, but as a circle, always returning home. The voice slows until it sounds almost like thought. It suggests that maybe the universe itself is dreaming, and we, the dreamers within the dream, are learning to wake without losing the beauty of sleep. The ruins, the stars, the oceans, and our own hearts are all reflections of that same dreamer, eternally unfolding. The music fades to a whisper, soft strings, a single note of wind. The final words linger like incense. You are part of the mystery you seek. You have always been. Then silence. A silence not of ending, but of completion, calm, vast, and eternal. The story rests there, waiting for whoever next dares to listen, to dream, and to remember.